Hey Kubos, what's up? Finally here. Today, Final Fantasy Talk, and today we're going to talk about some more Final Fantasy 7 Remake discussion today. Today, as you see for the title, we're going to talk about the multiple parts in Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and I know I've been always talking about this, and yes, I will say it once again, each multiple part will be in full games. But anyway, today, we're going to talk about how each part will be ending in the Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Ever since that got announced, I've been just so confused on really how this is going to work in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know, because if part 1 goes into part 2, do you keep your levels? What part of the story will it be? There's so many questions into that multiple part scene, but all we can do is guess and see what we can do with it. So anyway, we're going to talk about, okay, we got 3 sections, okay? We got what if the Final Fantasy VII Remake has 2 parts, 3 parts, or 4 parts, okay? So 2 parts, that's the easiest one, because if the Final Fantasy VII had 2 parts, the first part would end on a very dramatic scene, and we all know that scene. Spoiler alert, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII at all, I would advise you to click off right now. But if it ends at Aerith's death, then that's the most emotional part of the game. It changes the whole story, whatever, and then bam. But that's only the end of Disc 1, which makes me confused as well. But if that's a halfway line into the game, then that'll be more easy, it'll be good, and it makes sense that kind of end it on that kind of cliffhanger for new Final Fantasy 7 gamers, and it'd be split into 2 parts, and it'll be easy and pretty easy going as well. So that's if it had 2 parts. If it has 3 parts though, let's say it ends on Aerith's death, of course, okay? But the thing is, what I'm trying to say for 3 parts, let's say at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, there is a little bit of Crisis Core, okay? And things get a little bit more complicated when we add more parts to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's true, because we're just because we don't know what the new story is going to be as well, so it's just going to add more confusion and thinking into it. But if the game was into 3 parts, 2 other major big critical story moments aren't too far after from Aerith's death in terms of time. If all parts were roughly equally length, a 3-act split could see the first part ending with a depart from Judan Harbor, and the first sight with Genova, and the second ending in Aerith's death, and the third part would be being the longest, but the cuts aren't as even. So basically the third part would be the whole just Sephiroth thing and whatnot, and defeating Sephiroth, and basically that's it. And also I'll add into that, added in a little bit of Crisis Core at the start, and that'll keep part 1 a little bit more lengthy as well. Now, if we go really hardcore, and I'm pretty sure if they do parts, I'm pretty sure 4 would be the max limit for a Final Fantasy 7 Remake parts. I don't think they'll go 5. I think that's a little too much, even though I think that's a little way too much, especially if they're releasing each part in a separate different time. I think people are gonna be like, okay, swear, just like, what are you trying to do to me? But you never know, the game could be absolutely amazing. Now, if we added, okay, basically all the 3 parts that I said in part 3, okay, imagine all those parts, just a little bit of Crisis Core at the start, so we, you get that out of the way, and the Aerith's death, then beating up with Genova, then you defeat Sephiroth and whatnot, and that's the end of that. But then you add a little mix of Avalon Children, and I talked about this before, and Sephiroth does come back in in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that's just a whole nother, just new parts of the game, 2 years later into the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and once again, you have to defeat Sephiroth, and that'd be pretty cool for part 4, because 1, like I said, each part will be full games, and 2, part 4 will just be something completely different for each Final Fantasy VII gamer, because yes, we've watched Avalon Children before, we know the story, but we never actually played it, and you could add, it's a movie, it's like an hour and a half movie, not even, and you could do so much with that into a game as well, and explain a lot more in that movie. And just, it doesn't have to be something so long, but just a little cool little ending, ending plot to the whole Final Fantasy VII Remake, this whole part thing. And it would explain, what happened to the really Meteor, why did Sephiroth come back, and how did this all happen, and also explain, Aerith and whatnot as well. And yeah, so Kubos, that's just like my little thought on this Final Fantasy VII Remake part thing. That's how I think it would work out if it was in 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, and it won't be in 1 part, so yeah, I can't even say that. So anyway, Kubos, you let me know in the comments below. I know I get some Final Fantasy hardcore gamers coming to my channel here and there, and yes, they probably criticize a lot of what I talk about Final Fantasy VII, because Final Fantasy VII is just a really debate, opinion, FF game. But you Kubos, let me know in the comments below what we think about it. What makes more sense to you, and what part will end on each part? If it had 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts, how many parts do you think this game's gonna have? And let me know if you think that Absolute Children thing would kind of happen, or also mix in with Crisis Core as well. I just think they should really mix in the 2 prequel and sequel into the Final Fantasy VII game remake, and I think it would make for a really good storytelling remake game. So anyway, Kubos, please let me know in the comments below what you think about it. And yeah, so anyway, Kubos, hope you enjoyed. I'm Final, and I'm out. Kubo, see ya.